Alrighty, guys. This is, oh my god.
This is at 1 bar.
One bar already?
Yeah.
Of battery?
Jeez.
You may only get one.
We don't even have a
Jesus.
name for this podcast.
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, should we come up with a name right now?
Well, now there's the pressure of the camera.
Yeah, there's a pressure. There's a pressure to and the one bar of. battery.
Yeah. So we have to use all this time. Super.
Well, I was thinking if Ryan was here, because we wanted to like have Ryan on this, but we didn't want to do it in the first episode because he didn't care for the FNAF movie.
Yeah.
So we were like, out. I was thinking Preston, Ryan, Jake, PRJ, The Purge.
Purge?
Popcorn time.
We'll put that on the list.
We can literally just call it the Preston and Jake podcast.
That's
you
true.
know? But then Ryan will come in.
Yeah. And then we'll
later.
just call it the Ryan podcast.
Yeah.
With Preston and Jake.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the first podcast of the Preston and Jake podcast.
Woo!
And today we're gonna just talk about movies. Basically, is the whole deal, yo.
Mm-hmm. And one movie in particular today.
Yeah, one movie.
5 Nights.
Friday Nights at Freddy's. I don't know where to start. Where should we start?
I jotted down some notes.
I
Just as a
actually came
structure
up with
and
a kind of like a synopsis, just kind of like a.
No.
I came up with one. You know, it has to be like.
All right, so you do know where to start.
I guess I do. Oh, there it is. Part of Josh Hutcherson's crazy addiction to be in movies with children dying. Friday Night at Freddy's.
Yep. That was a good synopsis.
Thank you. I wrote it down.
Yeah, no, I saw that because you were looking at your phone and you tapped it a couple times.
Yeah. No, it took me a while to find it. I found it though. All right. You got a synopsis you want to say?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Did you find it yet?
I found it.
Oh, cool. Thank God.
So what do you think of the plot?
So we obviously are 2000s kids. We
Yeah.
grew up,
And only 2000s kids will get this reference. Vine?
remember...
Do the Harlem Shake?
Yeah, remember dabbing?
Gangnam Style?
Remember not witnessing 9/11? Well, we grew up, obviously, loving FNAF. At least I know I have. I don't really know for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously before this quarter, I didn't really play the games, and
just
still
know.
didn't.
Well, it's like...
but I remember it was like I don't even know what. I feel like it was like middle school or something when like I went over to my friend's house and he showed me like the first like 5 Nights at Freddy's game theory, and it was just based off of it, and it was like, ooh. This game's based off like a Chuck E. Cheese murder.
That theory was definitely like bringing us every kid in because it was very macabre. It was very like kind of like it felt like that early 2000s creepypasta type of thing. What we all love about the internet is just how there can be a dark side to it, kind of like a campfire. Like
it was
story.
like cryptic. And just kind of eerie.
It was more eerie just because of the fact that they're not blatantly saying it. And the idea that this video game is based off of like a real life event.
Yeah.
As horrifying as that idea kind of came off as just like a disturbing kind of like, yeah.
Well, I think it was also just like a fun idea to have something that's like obviously based on Chuck E. Cheese, and it's like a horror spin on Chuck E. Cheese, and you're like, oh, they're getting away with it.
Yeah, but it's also like really one of the only horror things that we had at that we had as kids, which like is something that we really lack a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
We don't. have like how Gremlins was kind of like the children's horror movie back in the 80s.
Yeah,
We
because
never
it's
had something
not
that.
like explicitly gory. At least the first game.
No, and it's just more like kind of like our Goosebumps. And
Yeah.
it literally became Goosebumps
Yeah.
with the books. Not to say that we ever read the books, but it was more just
No,
like,
who reads nowadays?
who gives a shit? I think we all grew up at least knowing what FNAF was, and you know, some of us loved it, some of us loved it more than others, you know, but at least everyone knew what Five Nights at Freddy's was. You would have like, even like popular kids, everyone was doing it. It's not just like nerds, but then, you know, then it became like nerds, you know, like a nerd thing, like everything does. But
It's like drugs. Everyone was doing it.
everyone was doing it. Yeah, it was like the 80s. Five Nights at Freddy's is
It's the cocaine,
cocaine
of the modern day.
Of the modern day, yeah, exactly. So that's like our affiliation. I love like the theories and everything. It kind of became more like, I kind of died out for a little bit. I loved the game theories. I would I would watch every single one whenever they come out, and then I have my own little playlist that is in order. Which, you know, Matt Pat, figure your shit out, man, because all your shit is like out of order and scattered. I love the lore kind of in both the storytelling aspect, but also the outside storytelling aspect about how there is kind of like this funny perspective of just like seeing how a small video game like this blew up in such a there's like
Well,
different
especially,
perspectives.
I mean, I think you'll probably know more about this than me, but especially considering what Scott Cawthon was doing before, where it was just like weird little Christian games that no one really liked.
Yeah, that's kind of what started it, where everyone saw like what was it called, Chipper and Sons. That was his video game. They saw the design of Chipper and his sons, and they hated it because it reminded them of like creepy animatronics. And then he was just kind of like, all right, fine, you want to see some fucking creepy animatronics? He made that, and then the rest is history, you know. And I mean, it's just such an interesting kind of idea of like how something with a pretty good story, as well as really good means of storytelling, can also have an outside view of like how the story around that can also be good. And that's kind of what was really attractive to me for like Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's so interesting that it like got like I feel like they did everything except a movie and then a movie.
Yeah.
Like there was the games first, and then there was books,
and then VR
comics.
game, and then then they have like a anthology book series, as well as like VR, AR. They did all the different
and
media.
to like a not less official extent, there's like it also got popular because of the songs.
They got songs. Yeah, it's not official, but
Yeah.
that's also another thing that's really great about Five Nights at Freddy's, is this is kind of like the one franchise that is so welcoming of just outside portrayals of fan created things. And like Scott Cawthon even like wanted to push like fan games more by giving them money. Before the movie came out, we played every single game. Well, not every single game. We didn't play the AR game,
Right.
or the 3 games that he came out with that are like
To beat cancer.
one to beat cancer, another to apologize that the security breach didn't come out in time,
yeah.
and then the other one was just like in prep for the movie, and we didn't play those games. Yeah, we wore purple. I held a phone, a purple phone,
Yeah.
and I had a little security badge right here, playing the purple guy. But the purple guy, back when we thought he was the phone guy.
And in case of the movie,
In the case of the movie, it turns out the purple guy is the phone guy. Isn't that amazing, Jason?
have you seen the movie? Did you watch it?
Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Well,
I played.
You're gonna get some major spoilers.
sorry about that, buddy.
I think I played like the 4th game.
Oh.
Dude, the 4th...
That's the spookiest one.
That's the spookiest
I
one.
think that's the one I played.
So, I think what we should start talking about the movie first and foremost is the odd controversy of how everyone hates it that we just don't understand.
Does everyone hate it though?
I mean, that's what I don't understand is that everyone seems to hate it to me, but that's only because
Also, this is a side note. I found this pen in my history class, and I don't know if it's from Child Protective Services.
Well, what does CPS stand for other than that?
I don't know.
It seems to me like a lot of people hate it, but that's only because, hatred speaks louder than love,
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we need a lot more love in the world. We need to get together. We should, yeah. Listen, I hate things every now and then. I hate movies at least.
No, yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I can't stand some people's like gripes for movies because sometimes their gripes just don't make any fucking sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like that's something you disliked. The fort scene from FNAF is the only thing you disliked about the movie, and because of that, you just hate the movie. Like that's what we should talk about. Is the fort scene.
Well, I have fort scene in prose.
That's definite pros because when we watched that movie. And we were
That was a scary scene.
That was the scariest scene in the whole movie because we didn't know if it was going to be like this is where the movie just shits the bed.
Yeah,
and
because
the
everyone
rest is
in the
suck.
theater was just like, "What?
Yeah,
What is this?" Well, because it wasn't like I wasn't immediately getting angry about it. My mind was this movie was pretty solid up until now. And they're gonna jump the shark for the rest of the movie, and it's gonna be hilariously bad. So why not enjoy how much they really made an odd decision here?
It's either we're gonna love it because of how bad it is, or we're going to love it because of how good of a decision that.
And because it seemed like it was going in the direction of all the "We Are FNAF" memes.
Yeah, it's like it. Because leading up to the movie, everyone was just like so scared of just shit like, all right, Faz gang.
Yeah.
It's time to spring this trap kind of memes. They were all scared of that shit. And then like it literally almost happened. Yeah. And that was what was the scariest part of this horror movie. It wasn't this jump scares or any gore or anything. The scariest part was the possibility that this could have failed and been the worst fucking movie ever. And the thing is that a lot of people love to do this, is if you take that scene and you just kind of post it on the internet and leave it by itself without ever showing anything else in the movie, you can easily just kind of turn the story and be like, this is the worst movie ever.
Yeah.
Peter Parker's walking down the street dancing, to the ladies and all that kind of stuff. It's so cringy. I hate this movie, blah, blah, blah. You bring up that one individual scene, everyone's going to hate the whole movie for that. When that scene is like, in Spider-Man 3 is like, controversial take, guys. I love that scene. Because it's a great scene because I understand it's cringy, but like that's the whole point, is that Sam Raimi, Emma Tammy, all these directors.
All the me's.
Yeah, me. All these directors love...
It's me.
All these directors love to like have a scene where it's cringy, because when you're making a movie, you want to get a certain emotion out of people in every scene. You want a different emotion, but you also want it to be kind of like in the same area of emotion as the rest of the movie. And when it came to like something like Spider-Man 3, they wanted to show us what Peter Parker, a dork, a nerd, would be like with Venom taking over his body and making him like become a badass cool dude and stuff like that. And it was like, and it's really comedic because of the fact that like Peter Parker's not supposed to be cool. No. And they wanted to be like, what would a nerd think is cool? So then they make a scene like that. And also it has a lot to do with the fact that like Venom wasn't even like a foresight for Sam Raimi. He didn't even want to do something like that. But
he definitely adapted it to his...
Well, Sam Raimi knows how to do like the best. He's the best at kind of like horrible scenarios, knows how to like make the most of it. And, that's like why he's one of my favorite directors, is because he really has always been in so many bad scenarios and gets so much hate for like some of my favorite movies like Army of Darkness and Spider-Man 3, when really those are like the most fun because they have these really comedic parts of it, that serve a purpose in the overall arc of the story. Ash can't be Ash without being a Dutz a putz and a dunce. I can
Yeah.
You know what, that's it. Because that's the character, and that's the whole point of Evil Dead, is like the comedic value of like having a character that isn't a badass be the badass of a movie. And when it came to something like Five Nights at Freddy's with the fort scene was so controversial because it's like, I can't believe they're doing this cringe ass thing, when really it serves such a great purpose for the story, making the child want to be a part of this, raising the stakes more, because now that the child is involved with the other animatronics, and now the stakes are going to be higher because these animatronics could kill her. It makes the story actually progress, and goofy things like that happen in all the most serious things all the time, and like, I don't know, like Stephen King could like usually does goofy ass shit like that in his books, and he doesn't get shit at all. Like,
because I feel like I don't think because it, in the context of the movie, it feels like just a natural plot point. Like, have them be friendly and goofy with them, and then that will just make it more scary when they turn against them and they're chasing after them and are gonna get them.
Yeah.
So I feel like if this movie wasn't associated with prior IP, prior games and stories and stuff, no one would care about the fort scene.
Yeah, but also it kind of proves just how fake of fans a lot of these people who say that they're
fake fans.
Fake fan over here. Yeah. Ooh, I played the fourth game. Turns out it's the third. They don't understand that FNAF is kind of a joke. And that's what is so lovable about it at this point. And a lot of campy things always turn out to be a joke after a while. Like, my favorite franchises are horror franchises that always kind of divulge into being comedic later.
Yes.
I love Chucky, I love Evil Dead, and I love FNAF because of these reasons. And I mean, there are almost every single
like long-running horror franchise turns.
Yeah,
At least, they'll turn into like a.
And then they'll try to like
Freddy, Jason kind of thing.
Exactly, and they'll always try to go back to being serious, but it's kind of like, you kind of have to appreciate just the silliness, because the fact that the franchise is living that long kind of deserves to be like, made a farce at that point.
A lot of people nowadays, especially kids who are going to see these movies, have not been to a Chuck E. Cheese. Or at least a Chuck E. Cheese that has the animatronics. And so I feel like if you it initially just kind of introduces them as scary characters. But if they're just scary characters, like, they're less interesting than being friendly images turned into scary characters.
Yeah.
So I think if you already knew like the parallels to the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics, you get that friendly characters to scary characters. But if you haven't done that, then seeing them as friendly characters, going to scary characters makes them more interesting.
Yeah, it's the it problem that I keep on talking about.
Yeah.
What makes it so scary is the contrast from being a friendly clown into being a horrifying monster. And the reason why people find clowns so scary is because of it. And what happened in the new It movie is that they made it, as a clown, a very horrifying design.
Yeah.
Which makes it...
He looks like a scary clown.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, what would be so appealing for Georgie to even want to approach that clown? Being that he's already in a gutter. Like, that's already a pretty bad scenario.
Yeah.
But you at least want to make him a little bit appealing for kids, because that's the whole point that Stephen King was getting by, is just like...
and I feel like the Tim Curry one was properly goofy as a clown.
It was properly It has a lot of problems, that original one, but they at least understood what the clown was there for. And that's a problem that a lot of people don't really understand with horror movies, I feel, is that Chucky cannot be Chucky without being a doll. There's a comedic value to it, and they indulge in that comedic value later on in the series. But Chucky is as scary as he is because there's a contrast between being a lovable doll that everyone wants to have. All these kids want to have a good guy doll, or a nice guy doll. Or is it good guy or not?
Other guys?
I'm a fake fan. The appeal is what draws the child in, and then they kill the child, which is what's so horrifying about it. And that is basically the basis of the FNAF games. And what was so appealing to the FNAF games was that these are a bunch of kids who grew up with Chuck E. Cheese. And now that they're hitting a much larger audience with the movie, there's less people that know about Chuck E. Cheese. There's less people who even have...
Because Chuck E. Cheese, they don't do the animatronics anymore. It's just screens.
They do?
Yeah, it's just screens or nothing. Or they barely have a band anymore. Or it's just one guy in a Chuck E. Cheese
Wait, I didn't
suit.
even know about this.
Yeah. I've only been to one Chuck E. Cheese. And it was...
When you were a kid?
No, it was literally last quarter.
I was just checking out, what it was like.
Yeah. No, it was literally last quarter.
Yeah.
Went to, because there's one here. And so I went to go check it out. I was like, people really love Chuck E. Cheese. I've never been. I'll check it. Like, I've been to Chuck E. Cheese style places.
Yeah.
Where it's just like games and stuff and pizza.
Yeah.
But I'd never been to Chuck E. Cheese. And then I went there, I was like, yeah, it's all right.
Well, it's probably because they didn't have the animatronics.
Yeah, they don't I feel like it's...
Fucking, the animatronics is what sells the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. They stopped using the animatronics for a time, but they recently brought them back because of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Whoa.
Well, there's that thing that was being so like on the nose.
Yeah.
So
Stealing.
creepy though.
Well, they were being on the nose stealing just Five Nights at Freddy's since the movie was coming out. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's the original lineup.
Yeah.
Dude,
I didn't really care when Chuck E. Cheese was doing that, though.
I mean, it's
just, they're
obvious.
poking fun at people poking fun at them.
I know, so it's like, who gives a shit? But
Yeah.
that was kind of a thing where they were coming out when the movie was coming
Yeah.
out with this Halloween bash.
I feel like they should just lean more into it, honestly.
I know, they really should. I remember watching the very beginning, like, the tone it has, it already a very classic horror film type of tone. It's very slow moving, very, like, indulgent in the atmosphere, while also kind of not being too, crazy with the cinematography and everything. It's very simple and very clean cut, especially with the storytelling, just kind of being like going by the beats that every horror movie, at least in the 80s, kind of follows. And they did such a great job at being a classic horror film. It felt like I was watching another 80s movie.
Well, I mean, that's what they were going for. I mean, like, I was watching just, like, a little behind the scenes, like, and she said, like, yeah, we're going for an 80s vibe. And it was more in relation to, like, why they chose to do, like, all practical animatronics instead of, like, CG.
But you can see in the cinematography how it's... You can see in the cinematography how it's kind of like the color grading isn't too specific on, like, ooh, we want it to be like a certain, like, color grading, kind of umbrellaing the whole movie, where it's like it's all very green or very blue, kind of cold or something. They were just kind of going Rec 709.
Obviously, it's like this big IP, and they knew that going in, but it still felt like a low budget movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because all the money went into the animatronics, but it felt low budget, which I think reinforced the feeling of FNAF, because that first game is very low budget.
The whole idea of FNAF is kind of like low budget thing, very indie projects becoming huge IPs. And that's kind of like, we need to start back to the basics of what made FNAF. Everyone was expecting so much from this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I wasn't getting a lot from it. I expected a lot. I was kind of like, oh, what if this happened? We were having a whole
Yeah.
like discussion with the friends that we brought when we went to the pizza place before we went. But we were having a whole discussion about like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? And then it just like, it didn't happen, but that's not a detriment. That kind of went to the benefit of the movie, most definitely. Because we need to have a simple movie, and they need to just, and Scott Cawthon needs to focus, because he's not a film writer or anything, he needs to focus on just how to make the most solid movie that he can. And all you have to do is just really just buy or just find a PDF of Save the Cat and just follow the beats that they say to follow, and you just do that, find out what kind of movie you're making, follow all the beats of the story in film and the certain timestamps. He did it. It's like super solid. Things that were set up in the beginning have a great payoff in the end. They follow a 3-act structure, each thing. It's like, that's all you need, especially for a movie that is trying to like kind of come into the film industry. But because of who everyone is nowadays, they expect
Kids these days,
they expect grand scale like cinema, and they want to be like wowed to a degree of like Mad Max, Fury Road, and Drive, or some shit like that. And it's like, I love those movies, don't get me wrong. I mean, these are great movies, but like,
They wanted more cars in the movie. They wanted it to be like Mad Max and Drive.
But it's like, I think people need to like, it's not a problem for the movie.
Yeah.
Because you're just looking at it in your own perspective. I think you need to, it's definitely a problem of the audience. They need to kind of like understand that like, they're not going to be pleased as much as they want to, you know?
Yeah.
And we understand that kind of stuff, you know. We kind of find joy in like any type of genre.
It's just about appreciating it for what it is, not hating on it because it's not what you expected it to be.
Appreciating for what it is, but not hating on it for what it's not.
Yeah.
I was just cleaning up your...
Oh, okay.
I have my gripes about the ending, since the ant doesn't really like do any... Like the ant just kind of disappears, and there's no like reason... Like, it's just like, what the frick, you know? I'm trying
What
to
the frick,
I'm
man?
trying to keep my
That was my exact quote in the theater.
That's like a pretty big issue. It was kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have like one scene of Josh Hutcherson and the sister kind of like, you know, playfully just like burying the body or something.
Yeah,
It's
like if they resolve it in the second one, then it's gonna be fine. Like, it's such an easy fix that it's not something that's bothering me too much. But while watching it, and you come out and you're just like, no one was asking anything about all the people that died. No, nothing. Like,
I mean,
that entire
understand.
group of people disappeared and nothing really happened. And then this aunt dies in her home, or not in her home, in Josh Hutcherson's home, a person who she's known to have conflict with.
Exactly.
Nothing happens.
That's going to create something wrong.
Yeah.
Like some issue in the plot.
Yeah. Like, if they do that in the second one,
If there even is a second one.
there's gonna be a second one.
I hope.
No, I think they're already in pre-production for it.
Okay,
Because I mean, we were talking about it when the camera was off, but the movie made a ton of money. It made its budget back in pre-sales alone. And also, it's making tons of money for also being a movie that's on Peacock. So it's double successful.
Oh, it is really successful.
So they're definitely gonna do a second one.
They're definitely going to do it. I hope that it's not an issue of like, oh, the first movie sucked, we're not going to watch the second one kind of thing. I hope it's an issue of just, or not an issue, but like a scenario where it's like, the first movie sucked, but we still got to watch the secon one.
Yeah, and
I'd rather have it be
especially
that.
because of how much of a phenomenon this movie coming out was.
Without even like the pre-sales being like making up for it all. Like,
and you just see memes about it everywhere.
Yeah, it's like
there's gotta be. They know. I mean, they made a Meg 2.
They're making a Meg 2?
No, they made a Meg.
Oh,
not
Megan.
Megan.
I thought you meant Mithrigan. Yeah.
No, they made the Meg 2. The Meg 2, The Trench.
And that's only because it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're not actually looking at like who
who
likes it or not. Yeah.
Obviously.
Am I in the shot, Jason? Am I?
Yeah.
All right,
Obviously.
Cool. Am I in the center though?
No.
Are you the center of attention?
Yeah, turn the camera. I'm just scared because I want there to be a second one really badly.
Well, okay. How many do you want there to be?
I want there
Do
to
you
be
want there to be like one for each game?
No. I want there to be 3, but I do want them to kind of skim over a lot of the games.
Yeah.
Because like we said,
Well, because this one does a lot of just the third game, kind of.
well the third
Of
game
the stories.
Yeah, of the mini games, right?
Yeah.
I just want to see him because the whole plot is that Michael is, trying to undo all the mistakes that his father has done. Now, I don't know if Michael Schmidt from this movie is the same Michael from the games, since there's Michael Afton and there's Michael Schmidt. I don't know for sure, but I would like to see Josh Hutcherson's kind of be the lead. Because he did a really great job with this movie.
He was good in this movie.
He was very stoic. I understand, he didn't really do a lot, but again, like we were saying, how, small little things of, it's like Gestalt, the Gestalt theory, how it's kind of like they don't give you the full information, but you can understand, you can fill in the blanks kind of thing. And they don't give that much information from this guy, but you can fill in the blanks just by, tiny things that they set up in the beginning, how he treats his sister, how he treats other people, who, and how he deals with scenarios in his origins, about how his brother was taken. And he's very stoic. It's very quiet, and he does a pretty good job at that. Because although you don't really want your character to be like a blank slate, you do kind of want there to, if it fits the movie being a blank slate, then you just need to know how to set that up and do it right. I mean, shit, Clint Eastwood's character in all of the Good, Bad, and Ugly and Fistful of Dollars or whatever I don't know the other ones, but
$3 more.
Few dollars more, exactly.
The Man with No Name trilogy.
Yeah, the Man with No Name trilogy. It's literally called Man with No Name because he's just a stoic character, but he's lovable because he has the charisma and the stoicism that Clint Eastwood knows how to execute really well. And Josh Hutcherson did a really great job with what he with that stoic kind of character. I would have liked more, but that's kind of why we want there to be more movies. Is you don't want to show too much in the first movie.
Yeah, I feel like my wish, my dream scenario, would be four movies.
Mine is just I always am either you go big or you go home kind of thing, or it's either you do the basic trilogy format. Because I always love the trilogies.
Yeah, I feel like you could tell the full story in a trilogy.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect amount of movies for any movie series. It's either you do the basic trilogy, or depending on the franchise, you go all out and you just fucking produce movie after movie.
Well, yeah.
And just shit it all out,
I feel like if they wanted to, I feel like you could do a trilogy if you wanted to stop at kind of what this story that they have rolling right now, but if you want to kind of diverge into some of the other stuff that the games have set up, I feel like 4 or 5 you could start getting into more interesting stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, about it, it depends on the franchise, and I mean, it already kind of has that franchise.
Yeah.
With the games, so I mean, if they want to keep, unless they want to make the movies just kind of more the very sophisticated end of the franchise, then I think they should just keep it at a trilogy. But if they want to just kind of go back into the wackiness of the video games, I don't know. That's all up to them. I personally think that I think I would be happy with either one because I already love the franchise as it is, and if they were to just kind of throw shit to the fan and just fucking destroy this franchise, it would be entertaining in that way, but also I would like to see it kind of stay in be a trilogy, since I had the idea that the second one should follow the very the trilogy format of just the very bleak ending at the end of the second one, how Empire Strikes Back ends that way,
It's
Every trilogy.
That's the thing.
It's just that's a thing you'd have to do. You know, like every trilogy has to end with, or no, every second movie of the trilogy has to be like the peak of the movie series and seen as like probably the best one. But it always ends on a like kind of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's
like kind of like
the darkest note. There's movie series that you don't have to do that. Like I feel like with like an Indiana Jones or I don't know, like a Harry Potter where it's just like, I mean, Harry Potter has a long running story.
Yeah.
But it's like a very distinct adventure each time.
Yeah.
But I feel like this one, it's definitely, especially because of just Five Nights at Freddy's being Five Nights at Freddy's, there's the big extended story, big lore. And so I feel like each one of these, instead of feeling like just a solo one-note adventure, has to feel like a chapter.
Yeah.
In a larger story.
That's the thing is like Harry Potter is kind of just still following the trilogy. So is every movie. They're always following kind of the trilogy format. It's just more the second movie is kind of spread into and chopped up into like a bunch of movies.
You kind of get more of the cliffhangers once you get to like
the like literal ending.
Half-Blood Prince and then Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah, that's where you have the big cliffhanger, darkest moment. And I think you can definitely do that with Freddy. You can do that, or just have a regular trilogy. You can make the second one just kind of like they're just kind of having, it's a montage of a movie where they kind of go to all the different Freddy Fazbear's joints, and you have like a scene where they go to like this place and they go to this place, and the whole movie's more about like him just trying to catch up and kill William Afton, you know, but William Afton's like being chased, and he's just kind of like every step he takes, William Afton's a step ahead of him, and he's just, I think that you can do that with the second movie and then have a big ending where he reveals that he's his son. It would be a big twist, basically paralleling everything of Star Wars, because that's just like a great trilogy, a very solid trilogy to be going off of. And they can do that, or they can just do like anything else. I'm just kind of like,
I think I'm less on board with the going to different locations ideas.
Oh, really?
Just because I feel like that brings back memories of Ocean's 12. When the first one they do the big heist, and then in the second one they're doing a bunch of little heists. But and no, it just feels flatter as a movie.
I think, well, it's just more like, you do like, you're doing like tiny little things just more like as nods to the games, you know, and then you have a big one at the end of the second movie, you know, and you have like this big kind of like grand scale kind of like thing. It's like, this is it, you know. It could probably end with like Sister Location, where it's like they go down into the underground, and there's just this big like kind of like set that's just like, you know, it's like you came to my lair, you know. William Afton's just like, you caught me at my lair, you know, and he's kind of like caught at a dead end, and they're like cornering him, and you know, I was thinking like he just drops the ball of just like, I'm your father, you know, and then that could just like kind of go along with the dream theory theme in this movie, where it's kind of like, then that just unlocks a part of his brain that he like kind of hid, you know, and he starts having like a seizure or something. He's like, shit, he's my dad or something, like, you know, it's like,
yeah.
Oh god,
my
shit,
god, he's my dad.
Abby turns out to be like a robot, and she's just like, Michael, what's wrong? And then like William's just like, oh shit, you know, and she like, he opens up her back, and there's like some like AA batteries in there, and he's just like, ah shit, we gotta like take these out.
Accidentally hits like Spanish mode, like with Buzz.
And then the third movie, they just like go back in time to the Western days.
Yeah.
They go back.
It's like a steampunk kind of clockwork animatronics.
No, they go back in time to like when William Afton was a little kid, and he saw like the first show of like a talking bear, you know, like just kind of like
or
one of
a
those
talking beaver, Chipper.
He sees like some type of show like that inspires him to go into the animatronics field. All the theory that game theory's like timeline, which is what they came up with. They said that William Afton like saw that during the Great Depression or something when he was a little kid. He's like, was watched these like bears. Where were we last time? What were we talking about before Jason ruined the flow? Ooh, I gotta go home. Jason, we love to have you back. That was a lot of fun. I miss Jason. How about now? Is that good?
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to talk more into it like this.
Should we just do the whole podcast like?
Dude, you're such a silly goose. Stop.
I didn't hate the Vanessa character, but I just feel like her character was just weird. Just acted weird. Was a bad cop.
She was a horrible cop.
Like, I was expecting them to reveal that she like wasn't actually a cop.
Yeah,
But they didn't.
I mean,
she's
got
just
the
like
other movies to worry about.
Yeah, like she spends all of her time in this pizzeria. It's either she spends her time in this pizzeria or taking this guy's medication and throwing it into a river. No more sleeping, Mr. Mike.
It's like, out of all the characters who are like, if we have any complaints about them being blank slates, surprisingly, it's not Josh Hutcherson's character.
No,
it was kind of hers.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like her character was kind of not very consistent.
Yeah.
Especially at like, well, I mean, like she has like, not in the sense that like she has like her character flip at the end where she's like, I'm gonna be a good guy now.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear me, and I can hear you.
All right, well then you can hear it.
We're the only two people in the room.
Jason's still here in spirit.
Yeah, but like it was just that like it was like kind of like that one scene, or like where she's like she participates in Fortnite. She participates in the fort scene, and then like.
Well, she's also kind of like buying into the whole delusional like.
Yeah.
See, we're having fun.
But then she switches in like I don't know if it's the next scene or whatever when she's just like when they're outside in the parking lot. She's like, if you bring Abby back here, I will shoot you.
I know. It was kind of like she's like almost like the bipolar character in this, and it felt like I don't know what her whole deal was. I liked how in the beginning when we knew her and she she was like kind of introducing Freddy in the gang, and she just press the Showtime button, and it was like you could kind of see like there was like a childish kind of like, aren't they beautiful? Isn't it amazing? And I like that. And then they kind of go into that a little bit more, where she has kind of a living like her delusion as a child has kind of lived on into her adult life. And it kind of shows that in the Fortnite scene where she's kind of like, buying into the whole Abby and the friends just having a little fun Fortnite, while the only person who wasn't having fun was Josh Hutcherson's character. And that was like some characteristic I liked, and then that was it though. They didn't really do anything with that characteristic of like how she really likes these animatronics. There could have been kind of like I don't know, it could have played a good part in the whole finale. You know how Abby's character played a big part in her drawings are what caused the kids in the end to revolt against Springtrap, and then Michael's character kind of being more like the father figure just kind of led to that happening. I felt like there could have been more coming out of Vanessa's character to kind of have the ending be a little bit more punctual. But other than that, she's just a blank slate. Man.
Yeah, no, like I don't think her character was horrible, but it was just I don't know. Like I liked her.
Yeah.
It's just like some of the things that she did and said just didn't really track.
We all know that the games, when it came to the games of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, they definitely didn't have the whole story planned out, and then over time they figured out what they liked about the story and everything. Do you think that the movie is just kind of Scott Cawthon's after seeing everything that worked and what didn't work with the video games, this is basically what he thinks is the best canon.
Yeah,
of the
I think he's.
games.
I think it's a lot of just cherry picking like the best bits and then changing them. Just yeah, I think it's definitely a hindsight kind of thing. Like I wonder if this is what he would have made just the game canon.
Yeah,
If-
knowing like
Yeah.
where it would be going, what he would want, and all that stuff. That seems like what the movie, or at least what the movie series is gonna try to do, and that's why I hope to see other movies because of that reason. I want to see more of just like what he thinks is a proper answer. For PG-13, my mom went and I told her, I'm like, yeah, there's really like barely any gore, but that's like based off of the fact that I'm like kind of like a desensitized to it. But she went and she said like, yeah, what are you talking about, dude? There's like,
It was spooky. There was scary face ripped off.
yeah,
bits.
there's like bits of face, just like teeth marks from the cupcake on there, and then there was also just like a literal scene where a girl just gets chomped in half, and it's
Yeah.
like PG-13 horror, and it did really like it. Like I didn't think, it was really great and fascinating in the sense where how far can you go with PG-13 horror, and I always get like I'm gonna have to cut this dead space out, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So with PG-13 horror, there's always like a weird fascination to me how every time I watch it, there's always like a new like refreshing like, oh my god, I can't believe you can get away with this in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And that happened with like Multiverse of Madness. I was very pleasantly surprised with Multiverse of Madness and like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It felt like, are we allowed to watch this? And it's not even that bad. I'm more just kind of like thinking about the fact that my mom would be like super displeased with this, you know? Like she would watch this, bring her kids in, and it's like, I can't believe this is PG-13, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, the thing is that PG-13 has become like so low with what they're using it for.
Yeah.
I think PG-13 needs to like kind of like
I feel like we're
toughen up
in
a little
an
bit.
age where people are starting to push the limits of that rating.
Yeah, and now R ratings are kind of like becoming the new PG-13s because PG-13 it kind of started out with, pretty like, not like scary, but like pretty, adultish themes going on. But that's why they had it, is because, there's a really weird mid-ground between something that like can be sold to both children and adults.
Yeah.
Like what was the first PG-13 movie again? Wasn't it like Temple of Doom?
Well, no, but Temple of Doom was the inciting incident for the PG-13
Yeah.
rating, because it's a fun adventure movie, but then you have a guy's heart getting ripped out,
Yeah,
and
no,
people
it
are
was
like, I don't know if it should be just PG.
Yeah, no, they were really thinking about making that R. Yeah, I remember that was a big thing, but I don't remember
And-
what was the movie, like the first movie.
I don't know what the first, because I think also the first Gremlins had something to do with it.
Gremlin, yeah, no, that's like again, like the childhood horror films. Like, I think a big issue is the fact that a lot of horror films coming out now have to be R, and whenever they're PG-13, they suck. I remember I was watching Red Letter Media, and they were talking about the new movie Cobweb, which, really great movie, really great horror film, and they were talking about how it's like very tame for an R-rated horror film, and they were saying it should be PG-13 because that was kind of like on the edge of like what you can and can't do for PG-13. The only thing that was keeping it R-rated was because they said like the F word more than twice, and that's like such a stupid reason. Like rewrite it or something like that, because
Say frick.
yeah, what the freak? I would love to see more R or PG-13 rated horror films, because that's, well, one thing, it's more marketable, so it's better for like franchises, and you can get a lot more money off of PG-13 movies compared to R. But another thing is just like I think we as a society need to have like some things that kind of grab the youth into that little horror universe
in a William Afton fashion.
Exactly.
Grabbing the youth.
Well, we need to grab the youth in the fashion where we're in a way where we're bringing them into this horror universe, because I think horror is kind of revered as like horror, but like I'm not saying you have to get rid of like extended horror, the new wave of horror films, but I'm just saying like it definitely helps to have something like Gremlins. Gremlins was such a beautiful way to like bring in another group bring in another wave of horror fans.
Yeah.
See who like bring kids into this world, and we had that but I don't think anyone in this generation has that, because we had
until now.
Yeah. Five Nights at Freddy's, man.
Nights at Freddy's.
Well, we had Five Nights at Freddy's. We had Monster House. We had a bunch of other like kind of. We were kind of like on the edge of like a great generation before us that kind of understood that like you need to get a little bit dark for kids. You don't have to be all happy-go-lucky all the time, and I love that about our generation being the last ones to like experience it. But
no, our generation is the best, and the
Every
next
way.
generation is soft and bad, and then the previous generation is
they're a bunch
grouchy.
They're all grouchy, and they're a bunch of boomers, dude.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of boomers and millennial freak hipsters, man.
Yeah.
So we are the perfect generation. No, I definitely believe, like, because I get into some like debates with my mom about like, because she's a teacher and she believes that like certain kids at a certain age shouldn't be exposed to certain like things at a really young age and stuff, and like I understand that like at a really really young age, but like there comes a certain point where you need to like start showing your kids some scary stuff, because Halloween, like we love Halloween. Oh my God! Speaking about generations, our next generation's gonna hate Halloween.
Yeah, well, they don't. I mean, people don't trick or treat anymore.
I don't see any, and that has a lot to do with you were talking about how like it has a lot to do with COVID, but
yeah, well, there's COVID, there's trunk or treat, and then there's the concept, which I had like one friend that did this as a kid, but I think it's getting more popular. It's the concept of the Switch Witch.
Switch Witch? What the hell
It's
is
where
this?
you take your candy that you got and you give it to the Switch Witch, and then you get like a present or something instead.
What the fuck? What?
Yeah.
What incel parent came up with this horrible idea?
Yeah. No, it's weird.
You need to get, okay,
The point of Halloween is going door to door, getting candy, and eating said candy.
Yes, this is the whole problem about like parents and like Disney World. When you go to Disney World, you have to just do whatever your kids say, and it sucks because you're gonna be wasting all your money. But that's the reason why you only go to Disney World like once every like 50 years. You know, you don't go to Disney World like every day or some shit, because that's gonna be wasting your money all the time. And you're going to be one of those parents who are just dragging their kid around. It's like, come on, we got to go on the fucking dwarf ride or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want to be that parent. You have to shut the fuck up going to Disney World and give the kids everything that they want. Because then they're going to get a sugar crash when they like eat all those like caramel apples and like, Mickey Mouse shaped pretzels and shit. They're going to have like a sugar crash, and they're going to be dead by the end of like 12 o'clock noon, and then you can just like bring them along, and they'll just like not really even they'll be asleep on the Little Mermaid ride around like 6 o'clock or something, and then you can as a parent kind of just enjoy it, and then when you are tired as a parent, you can just bring them back to the hotel, because you don't have enough energy as a parent either. So that's the whole plan of having kids. And we do this not just because the kids want to do it. We do it because as a parent, we do need some juvenile, or not a parent at all, but I mean, as a parent, you do need some juvenile behavior to channel some actions that you really want to like. You want to use your child as like a means to kind of live through them.
I don't think you should be a parent if you're not able to like get into a childish side of yourself.
Yeah, if you can't even appreciate the childishness of like something like Halloween or Disney World, you shouldn't even be a parent at all.
Yeah.
You as a parent have no say at all because you want the kids to experience life and create a mind of its own and use this time to develop it and have fun and learn from mistakes and do all, that's what you need to do as a parent. But that's why you only have tiny little pockets of time to do that. And that's what Halloween is. Halloween is just kind of like, we want to these kids are going to hate their lives after eating all this candy and having the worst fucking morning, like, aftertaste.
Did you
after
eat
that.
all of your candy?
Well, it's like, you can't eat it all in one night, obviously.
Right.
But, it's like, yeah, you have to, like...
Because what happened with me, because my birthday is literally just a week after Halloween, I'd eat as much candy as I could that one night. And then my mom would take the rest of my candy and put it in the piñata for my birthday party.
That's genius. Yeah. That's great. Your mom is like really smart, dude. No, we like, obviously you don't want to eat all your candy and stuff, but that's what you have to learn as a kid, is that you don't even want to have all that candy at all.
Yeah.
You just go through all that, have a crazy dopamine rush until you crash and you hate it, and then you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, and it's like not even like as much about the candy. It's more about just seeing how much candy you can get.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just more about like the adventure, the journey, the friends that you make.
Yeah, going out with your friends and
yeah, and that's what movies are when it comes to horror films, and when it comes to just children's films. But nowadays, we got a bunch of parents who don't want to have their kids like scared of the like boogeyman underneath the bed and scared of the monsters in the closet, when that is what makes kids tough, and that's what makes kids. You need to have the horror element in movies to create character.
Yeah, I think there's probably a line that I think I definitely experienced this as a kid, where you'd see stuff and it was definitely too scary for you as a kid.
Yeah.
But then you see stuff and it's like scary, but it's like cool scary.
Yeah, it's more. That's what Gremlins is. Gremlins is the perfect like kids horror film, I think, in my opinion. And I fucking didn't know about Gremlins. I mean, I knew about Gremlins, but I never watched Gremlins until this past summer. And it's like one of my favorite films now. Like I genuinely just think it's great because it's not based on any type of like cheap thrills like gore and like and just like body horror or anything like that. It's more just based on like using cinema and using the art of cinema to create tension and to create more imaginative like images in our mind. And that's also something that Five Nights at Freddy's does, which a lot of people were just like super like disappointed in. Like they were like, oh, it wasn't even that scary at all. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
And not only was it PG-13, they did a really great job at not being hokey in a way that I thought they would, where they would be doing jump scares like every second or something.
Yeah, no, I'm glad the jump scares were a gag with Balloon Boy.
They did a little Balloon Boy gag. Also, Balloon Boy's new design was really weird.
Yeah.
Like, he had the really big teeth, and it was like they were more just kind of playing on the fact is like, we have this idea of like the horror in Five Nights at Freddy's is all jump scare, and we're just going to play on the fact that is kind of what they're known for. When I think maybe Scott Cawthon and whoever else wrote the movie with him probably wanted to like make the horror a little bit different. After a while, they kind of just in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, after a while they started realizing they don't even like the jump scares, because the jump scares are just a means for a death scream. That's all it is. And it was cheap spooks at first, and it worked for kids, and it definitely worked for us. But after a while, we kind of grow up, and we kind of like find that the jump scares are just tedious, and they make jokes about it in the games, and now they're making jokes about it in the movies, and I think it works out really well when it comes to the movie's horror, because I mean, you're bringing in a new audience, and you also just kind of want to prove that you're not like a sellout like all other horror franchises, that you're trying to like just more be horrifying based off of like the haunting feeling and the terror and the tension and things that are more effective at horror than just cheap scares. And they kind of wanted to reinstate that, but for some reason, although we already in a world where we already know that jump scares are really hokey and stupid, for some reason people wanted there to be jump scares in this just because the video games did it. And it's like
I feel like these people gotta understand that if there were jump scares, they weren't gonna be satisfying jump scares.
Yeah.
You weren't gonna actually get you weren't gonna feel that feeling that you would feel playing a game and getting jump scared.
Yeah.
Well, my only other con was the lack of Foxy running. He kind of just zooms. He kind of rolls. Do you want to get into theory time?
Let's get into theories.
Theory time.
Theory time.
Yeah.
Theory time.
Woo! It's just a theory time. So I have the
Theory time.
I got the top 3.
It's theory time. Time to theorize.
So right here I got the top 3 theories going around the internet about this movie, and the evidence for these theories. We obviously had a lore change in this movie, because it turns out Vanessa is William Afton's daughter, which, I mean, honestly makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Considering that she's Vanny. So, the word on the street is that Mike's dad is actually Henry Emily.
Oh.
And the evidence for this is beards.
Beards.
So, when they go to the picnic scene, Mike's dad...
He has a beard?
He has a beard.
Yeah.
In the
comics.
in the instructional video that he watches, the guy in the back working on the animatronic.
Oh.
You don't really see him, but he kind of looks like he could be the same actor, and he's got a beard. That's all the evidence, but in terms of this lore changing, it would make sense.
Also, a lot of people were talking about how when they were doing the instructional video, they were saying that a big problem is that they only said the owner of the franchise. They were talking
Singular.
But I don't think that's a big issue. I think it was kind of that was foreseen, because I don't think that Henry Emily has ever been an owner of the franchise. I think he's always been the technician and the animatronic expert.
Yeah.
And that the business side has always been William Afton. So this still leaves room. I think people bringing up the fact that that woman said one singular owner, that doesn't throw any monkeys into the wrench.
Yeah, as the classic saying goes.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, so that's kind of the only evidence for that theory, but I don't know, because they do kind of leave a mysterious thing in terms of Mike's past.
Yeah.
Considering his mom dies, we don't know what his mom dies of.
Yes.
And then his dad leaves. And it's assumed just because of grief, because of the mom died.
Yeah.
But who knows? There could be other reasons, and I feel like that's something that was pointed out and then left intentionally vague, so that I feel like they're gonna explore that in sequels. And I feel I feel like Henry Emily could be.
I want Henry Emily to be in this, because
I feel like you can't not have Henry Emily in this.
Exactly. I was about to say it, because the thing is that this whole franchise is based off of a long. It's just the whole story is basically, because Scott is a Christian man. It's just basically about the fight between good and evil. Is
Yeah.
all it is, and you have one man being the good, the god, who's Henry Emily. Not to say he's actually God or anything, but he's the god of he is the god of the animatronics in some way, and then the fallen angel being Satan, who is William Afton, who started out on the good side but then fell, and that's just a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Every single story always has to have that. Star Wars being basically the biggest one. Do I really want to have prequels about William Afton? You don't have to have that.
No, but I think just because Henry Emily is such a big part of the lore.
Yes.
And I also understand why he wasn't in this movie specifically, because I feel like if you throw in another thing about a rivalry, I feel like there's just no place for Henry Emily in this story.
You don't bring Yoda until Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't think he would have. I don't think there was a reason to have him be in this movie.
Well,
but I think if you go into the sequel is where you expand the lore, you offer backstory to different characters, and I think Henry Emily is a big part of that backstory to especially William Afton.
Yeah, and also when it comes to just storytelling, what is more important than the main character is just the stakes and the antagonist alone. Because whatever makes an action movie, what makes an action movie is the villain, right? What makes any movie is the villain, really. What makes any story is the villain and the antagonizing energy to whatever is going to be good. But whatever is good is usually set up after they set up what the bad guy is. So usually they set up in horror movies, and that's what was really great about the structure of this film, making it kind of as classic as any other horror film.
We kind of already talked about this a bit,
Okay.
but Abby is a robot.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of like a fun little idea, but it also just fits with the book's stories.
The evidence that I have from the movie that people have been citing is the guitar bit, when she hits the guitar, electrical explosion, and then she's kind of fine. It's kind of, people were relating it to when Mike tasers the animatronics, they're disabled for a second,
but they will come
and then
back
they get
up,
back up. And then the fact that she seems to be the only one in this story that talks to the animatronics.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that has anything, the talking to the animatronics, I don't know if that has more to do with how their children and souls in there, and it's just kind of like children just talk among each other, or maybe it is the fact that she is animatronic. But I do know that she probably is the animatronic just because of I think the guitar one is actually like a evidence I didn't even think of. That's actually pretty good. But also the fact that like in the books, Abby's character kind of resembles a lot of Charlie's character in
and if
Four Eyes.
we're going off the theory that Henry Emily is
the father,
Abby's father.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my god. The biggest difference between the games and the movies is the fact that only Vanessa is, well, right now, the only
Afton
right now.
besides William.
I don't know, shit, man. But if Michael turns out to be Henry Emily's son, well, that throws my fucking theory out the window of how the second one would end. Fucking out the window.
Well, I mean, nothing's confirmed here.
Obviously
Anything
not.
could happen.
But it also just fits a little bit cleaner because, I like how I get where they would be going with this, because it fits cleaner in the sense that Michael has always been on the light side, and Vanessa is more just kind of like a person who just is born into the dark side and wants to get out. You know? But then that brings the question of, if they do go along with the Henry Emily being Mike Schmidt's father, who on the light side is going to cross over onto the dark side? Because usually that's like a very a very well used trope in movies that you always have to do, and like they already got Vanny being the cross to the other side, but I don't know. Who I feel like that'd be pretty interesting if Abby turns out to kind of be like Abby was originally Henry Emily's daughter, and then he made.
Well, it
like,
makes
the
sense
robot.
also because Abby being created at like just in response to the loss of Garrett.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I mean, yeah, is that a theory? Is that a theory that you have there or anything? How
What?
like how she was created in the response to Garrett?
Well, I
instead
think
of-
that's part of just the Abby is a robot.
yeah, maybe.
theory.
Well, I was thinking that maybe Abby was originally just born and then she died by a baby or something, and then they recreated her into a robot, and that's something that they do in the books, and it's a big jump the shark moment if they do that in the films, but
Yeah.
that's just kind of part of the lore, so I don't know what to say.
Obviously, the sequel, they're gonna be introducing probably some new characters from the games. But we got a theory here that Garrett is the puppet.
Oh, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, because the evidence is that, so there's the fact that the puppet will probably be in the second one. That's just kind of given. I feel like
Yeah, because of the FNAF 2 parallel.
yeah, and also that's just a major character from the lore.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the Yoda thing.
Yeah, and the fact that it's Garrett, I don't know if this is real, but people, I feel like I've seen like in the background there's a photo of Garrett and like their whole family, and he has like a striped shirt on. But at the end credits, there's the puppet music box going, and then it spells out "Come find me."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
the one that goes missing is Garrett.
Yes, exactly.
So
But does that serve the ending of the first one good though? Like, does that do it justice? Because the ending of the first one is it ends with Michael accepting that his younger brother died and that he has to.
he has new Garrett.
He has girl Garrett. Yeah. But it's like it's a pretty great ending when it comes to just kind of accepting the death of like of a loved one. You know, it's usually just like a really great way to just have a good arc for a character. Very kind of easy in some ways for writing, but
Yeah, but I think it's just gonna, if he's gotten over it,
yeah,
because this whole time he wanted to like solve the murder,
yeah,
and he's gotten over it. So I think it would just more make him upset if Garrett came back. Like I think there's still good tension to come. Like I don't think he'd necessarily be happy if Garrett came back.
Maybe Garrett is the crossover villain. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's Garrett's character, because the puppet definitely does always, come at you in the second game. Maybe if the second movie, let's say, is setting up, like, is established as, oh, I'm Michael Schmidt, and I have to solve all these problems that William Afton has done because I uncovered it in the first movie. Now the second movie is me having to, fix all these different problems. And he goes to this other establishment, and now there's new obstacles to have to deal with, and one of them is this toy box that he has to keep wound up all the time, and then the puppet like jumps out after him. Maybe there's like a moment where he could be like, he like knows who's behind the puppet or something like that, even though it is Emily.
Right.
But if he is part of the Emily family, Garrett could be a replacement
Yeah.
for Elizabeth. And it makes a lot of sense because that William Afton being the person who actually took Garrett in the at the camp, kind of
Well, it's kind of like, what's the reason?
well,
What's the reason that he took this one kid in Nebraska and now where's the movie set? Like Ohio or something?
I think it's also in like a flyover state like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think
so why? I feel like it's too much of a coincidence.
it's supposed to be in Utah. That's like where the games are, but I don't think they would move all the way to Utah and then it just coincidentally, like William Afton.
Well, I feel like it's
also
too
lives
much
there.
of a coincidence to not be for them to not be connected to the Emily family.
Yeah.
Or him to not have a previous vendetta against this family.
Yeah, and well, that's why I think the other movies are going to be like setting up more about like what happened between Emily and Athens. It gets so muddled having to do these theories and using something that is not even completely connected to the actual canon of the movie to figure it out. And that's kind of why, you know, people make literal like reputations out and like careers options out of just theorizing about this video game series. So I don't know. I can't. I mean, there's a lot of ideas coming out of us right now, you know.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to speculate on for the sequel?
I don't know, man.
Do you want the Faz gang to show up to Mike's house? Or like, we need you back.
Anything for my family. I don't know, man. I think I don't know what to take out of this movie review. I mean, I kind of do. I kind of have some I kind of learned something along the way of this 5-hour movie review that we just did. That I'm gonna have to edit the shit out of.
Just put it at like 2 times speed.
I mean, we learned a lot about podcast making, but I think what I learned about with this movie is that there is hope. There is hope, but I don't think a lot of the world is gonna like it.
Yeah.
But there is some hope of understanding how to make a good video game movie.
Yeah.
Thank God there's hope for that. But it seems to me like that, like I don't know a lot of video game movies, but it seems to me like this has to be like probably the best video game movie to ever be created, in my opinion. Like
I'm not super familiar with video. I didn't even see the Mario movie.
Me neither.
I
heard it was like
cool if you're a fan, and fine if you don't know everything.
Yeah, for me, it like Mario.
I mean, I saw
those video games to me were just.
Yeah, I watched Mortal Kombat was bad. Both of them.
There's 2.
Well, there is I've only seen the first of like those original ones, because there's the original like 2 movies. I saw the first one. It was like fun. It's like, honestly, it is kind of a fun movie, but it's not good.
Yeah.
And then the second, like the recent modern one, I saw, and that was just bad.
There was a modern Mortal Kombat.
It came out like a couple years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was weird and bad. But and in terms of video games, the only other thing I've seen is like the Sonic movies.
Are those good?
They're fun. They're fun.
Hey, that's exactly why
I don't know how accurate they are to the games, but they're fun.
That's exactly why I don't really have a big like want to watch this like the Mario movie. Is because those are just games where I could give less of a shit about the stories at all. Like they're just like fun stories and everything, and they don't really have like really an impact on my life. I played the Sonic games. I played Super Mario games, but it was just I played them so half-assedly. Like I just kind of didn't really care if I didn't finish it or not.
You know what video game movies I do like?
What?
Did you know that they turned Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga into a whole franchise of movies?
I think I know that. I've heard of that. Isn't it called Star Wars?
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy, dude. The only other franchise that was made off of a video game series that I know of. I never watched any of them, but it's Resident Evil.
Yeah, there's so many of those.
There's so many of them, and also I heard it's just like it branched off into its own little thing.
Yeah.
Like, cause wasn't it like it had the first Resident Evil movie was based off of the first Resident Evil game or something?
I don't know anything about Resident Evil.
I don't know either.
I don't know who this Resident is. I don't know why he's so evil.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Resident Evil, but what I've seen from the gameplay and what I've seen from the movie, they look like completely different things.
Yeah.
Because I see the gameplay and it looks like they have like different characters every game. And then when I see the movie, it's like they had one idea in the first movie, and then they just kept on making more and more, and it just has become this like crazy new like crazy different world that is so different from the games. And I heard they suck. Oh, I've seen scenes of it, and it sucks. It looks so stupid. It looks so stupid, and I don't know. Like, I don't know a lot about video game movies. A lot of them always fail, and they always flop. And seeing how a lot of people are reacting to the Five Nights at Freddy's one, I actually question if the ones that flop are actually that bad.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like a lot of people that just play these video games are kind of like Stephen King fans when The Shining came out. They're like, it's not like the fucking video games, or like it's not like the books or something like that. And I personally I don't see the complaining.
I think we might just be maybe in a era of good video game adaptations. Because, like, people like Mario.
Yeah.
FNAF was good.
And now there's
Last of Us was really solid.
Last of Us and the Witcher series are like really great. I don't know. I have no idea.
I heard The Witcher, like, the season 1 is good, and then
I heard that too. I think that's great to hear about video game movies and in shows and all that, and it sounds really great. All I care about when it comes to video games is just FNAF.
yeah.
So I have no really like say in like how every video game movie does, but I think the FNAF movie did fine.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Making lots of money.
yeah, and you know what? Good. It's like the fucking difference between like the popularity vote and the electoral college vote, where it's like it's kind of like I feel like FNAF is like a presidential candidate that like didn't get the popularity vote, but it did win the electoral college vote, and I'm just happy that happened, because that means that he's gonna be coming for another term, you know, or something like that.
Yeah,
that's like how I view this whole scenario, where it's just kind of like, man, that sucks to hear that no one else liked my presidential candidate that I liked, but at least he's gonna win.
But that's not the case though, because everyone that I've talked to, like save a couple people, everyone that I talked to, if they like FNAF and you ask them, well, what did you think of the movie? They're like, oh, I love the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's just there's just a couple of people every now and then who just like are adamant about it being horrible, and then we talk about it, and I'm like, what's so wrong with these things that you're saying, you know? I had a lot of fun watching it. We had enough fun to make this podcast.
Yeah.
And well, we definitely always wanted to make this podcast, but
take that. What did you think of the FNAF movie?
And don't forget to like and subscribe. And you know what? What should they ring?
Huh?
What should they ring?
Ring?
The
the bell notification.
Yeah!